All right. Um, so this is a Excel file that I made, and I basically took the Mazda RX-7 body electrical troubleshooting manual, which fairly beefy manual goes over almost everything in the entire car in terms of the electronics, um, save for sections A and B, which are in the regular um, repair shop manual. Um, and consolidates all the connectors. And then I wrote a notes for which one goes to, to what into one simple file that's searchable with clickable links. Some of it's even color coded. It just makes it a lot easier because sometimes using the electrical troubleshooting manual, you're trying to bounce back between 2, 3, maybe 4 different pages based on what system you're working on. As some of the things are interrouted. For example, in the RX-7, the horn. A lot of people wondering, okay, I got the horn going off randomly. What's going on? Well, it's not on its own system. It actually goes through and is most of the wiring contained in the airbags. So that can scare some people messing with an airbag system. But if you're working on it, yeah, you're going to have to dig into the airbag harness if you're doing anything main with the horn, as well as the exterior lights. They're connected into the security system, so it's a little confusing at times. This way, I was able to just consolidate it to make everything easier to follow. I did not break down the ABS or the airbags. Those are basically all or nothing systems. When I made this, this file is basically, it's RX-7 specific. So you'd have to build it yourself for whatever car you have. But things like ABS, airbags, it's an all or nothing. You're not gonna, okay, well, I'm gonna take out 2 parts, 3 wires from the ABS. It's a very specific system. Like I said, it's all or nothing. Either it's all coming out or it's all staying in. So you really don't need to break that one down. Some of the other ones, you may be only taking out certain things, instruments and warnings, the floor sensor in the RX-7 to say that, hey, it's getting hot. Yeah, I took that out, and so I needed to know specifically where those wires went. I shared this file on the RX-7 forum. That's why I have this kind of opening page with some big notes here going, for people who are using this, as well as how, color coding works from Mazda, how they coded it, what letter they used, and how they denoted stripes, or if there's 2 wires, or if it could be a slot on a connector, but it's unusable. If it's a slot on a connector that's unused, essentially, doesn't have a pin in it, but the hole's open. And then weird codes like parentheses and brackets to denote different trim models. So all these are clickable to bring you to that specific system. And I broke it down by, down here you've got the different harnesses specifically, and then breaking into the different systems. For example, we can click on A. According to the Mazda manual, any connector that begins with A101, A102 has to deal with starter and charging. So we can click that, and it brings us directly to the A and B page, which has what A101 does. 12 volts from battery, starter interlock switch. So A101 is the starter. So it's got essentially these 2 tiny single pin connectors. It's got the large one coming directly from the battery, which is black, and then black and red is the starter relay, essentially. So I kind of did what I could to simulate the shape of each connector, as well as color code what color it is, and then add in the color code from Mazda, followed by, as you can see here, a note telling me what is coming to that system or where it is going to. Would all just kind of change based on what I was feeling like writing at the time, honestly. If you're building your own one of these files, it's up to you how you want to label it. Pretty simple. These B10101s, these are the connectors into the ECU. So pretty important. Like right there. It's blue and black coming in, and it's going to the fuel pump relay. Pretty simple. It's the ECU, so it's going into a computer. It's a one-way thing. It's not like the X connectors, which I'll get to later, where it's just kind of joining two sets of wires. Pretty simple. Steering pressure sensor mileage switch. Vehicle speed sensor. Pretty important. And so then over here is where I started doing, which is taking a lot of research, the connector part numbers and the connector brand. So if I need to buy another one of this specific connector, like when I'm building my own harness, instead of reusing an old connector that may be all, beat up, I can buy a whole new connector right there. This is the brand TE Amp. They make a lot of the connectors for a Mazda. And then these are the terminals that I would need to buy for it. Sometimes connectors don't come in kits. I'm going to do a whole another episode on connectors themselves, actually showing them. But sometimes you have to buy just the connector, and you're just going to get a piece of plastic with holes in it. You have to buy the metal terminals that correspond to that connector that you actually crimp onto the wire and stick in. So you want to figure out what those are and order all at once rather than delaying everything, thinking, hey, cool, my connector showed up. Oh no, I still have to buy terminals. Here's an example right here of two different trim models being shown. So it's blue and orange or black and orange. And that's based on whether you have manual transmission or an automatic transmission in this case. Same with this one. Green and white, or it's yellow. So it goes all the way down. Look, these connectors are gray, black. Sometimes you got empty spaces. You just leave it open. And again, so this one, B107, that's a Sumitomo. Also very common on Mazdas. Getting into some colors, and also into the rat's nest of an RX-7 if you end up having that. Yeah, so C, a lot of these, all the 101s, these are going into the dashboard, the gauges, all that. But again, pretty simple. Let's say, oh, I don't need this big of a pinout. I just need to know, what all of the connectors are in the instrument harness. So, boom. So now you can go this way. Maybe as you're pulling a harness apart out of the car, you can label each individual connector like this to make it simple. Okay, gauge cluster, boom. Headlight cleaner switch, which was a Canadian-only thing for the RX-7, going all the way down to grounds, all that. So that way you've got them labeled, and that way once you get into the system-specific ones, you know exactly which one's which. So pretty easy. And then this is my own little thing I added in there of whether I was keeping it or not. So everything that's X'd, I basically deleted. Moving on, some letter sections, they're pretty big, pretty involved systems. J is the audio and security system for the RX-7, and there was two different audio systems. So J1 is, I believe, doesn't have the Bose system. J2 does have the Bose system, so it may be reversed, I can't remember. So I listed them both. I had the Bose system, I took it out, so I basically converted it. So then we get to X connectors. Mazda labels them as X connectors. Again, I haven't looked at other manufacturers yet, but these are typically your, I wouldn't say most important connectors, but very specific, not really the word, but um, they're some serious connectors. XO3, this is to the ignition switch of the car. So pretty important. You can see ignition 2, power from the main fuse, the starter, accessory power, that's your main one. XO4, this is your combination switch. This goes into steering column where it's got your turn signals, windshield wipers, um, all that kind of stuff. Not the horn. Like I said, the horn was involved in the airbag. It came in and so through a different harness. And then, so these ones they're connecting into specific like switches so they don't have another side. All these other ones from 5 down are two-sided. So they're involving two different harnesses, as you can see here. This is XO5 for a manual transmission. I didn't put the one on for the automatic for some reason. So this is the side on the front harness, and this is the side on the emission harness. Usually they're mirror images of each other, but sometimes they change colors going through a connector. You can see right here, from the AC fuse to the air pump clutch. And that's to B107 from the air pump clutch. So that lets me know that that's going to B107, and this is coming from a fuse, but that's the same circuit. They're going to connect together, but they change color through the middle. It happens sometimes. It's just the way Mazda did it. Maybe they had, as you can see, they had a yellow one next to it, and they didn't want yellow going through again. You know, it's just the way they do it. So going on down, it's the front instrument harness, front and dash harness, front and dash harness. You know, sometimes you get weird connectors like this where it's got all these open spaces. I have no idea what would have gone in here, why they chose to use a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 pin connector for 9 pins. It seems like they could have used a 9-pin connector and, you know, saved a cent. You know, that over how many cars, how many harnesses they ever made could have actually added up. Unless maybe they had a abundance of these connectors left over from the previous model year or another version of the car or something. But you run into that sometimes too. You know, hey, why didn't they use a 3-pin connector here instead of a 4? It's comes down to, I don't know, probably money overall and what they had. So yeah, the X connectors. Here's your ones going into the doors. Some of these are very difficult to research, to figure out. You know, if you're trying to find the same exact connector, then it can be quite tough to figure out exactly which one to order from a specific, you know, company. Sumitomo, TE Amp, one of them. I tried getting hold of Mazda and having them tell me, like, if they had a list of the individual connectors. They won't. They told me if I need, you know, a connector or something breaks on a connector, then I essentially have to buy a whole harness. That's insane. So instead of spending like $2, I'd have to spend, you know, $1,100, which is just absurd. But being that I have this entire layout, I can pretty much buy whatever connector I want, as long as I have the right amount of, you know, holes and pins so that they're keyed properly, and they go together. Makes it pretty easy. Like what I actually did with mine is I took X11 and X12. Since I'm stripping down the front harnesses and the engine harnesses, I was able to combine them into one 4-pin harness rather than having all of these being the way I decided to wire it, I was able to drop them down. So a lot of simplification, but if purity is your game, it's going to be a lot of research to find the right connectors. A lot of talking with the actual companies, pictures, possibly some trial and error. But if you just need, hey, any old connector will do, I know these ones right here, they're in the engine bay, so you're going to want to use a waterproof connector in case any oil or anything sprays out or gets on it. Yeah, any sealed connector, whether it be a WeatherTech or not WeatherTech, WeatherPack, um, Deutsch, whatever you call it, even some Sumitomos, anything that's got some seals on it is doable. Make it yours. You're already doing all kinds of different custom stuff to your car. Why not customize the wiring as well as save some space, a little bit of weight. It all works out. You can see some harnesses are huge, a lot of stuff. Front harness, absolutely massive. So yeah, actually Yazaki, they make some of the connectors in the RX-7 too. But again, depending on what brand car yours is, maybe different companies. Um, but this file really helps a lot. I've gotten a lot of praise for it on some of the forums, as it helps people out doing their own wiring, tracing things, all the way back from, point of failure all the way into where it goes, or if they need to splice or patch or anything like that. But it really breaks it down well. And then having a quick little legend / table of contents and some notes is absolutely highly recommended. It doesn't mean you don't need the factory manual, as the factory manual still breaks down things like, at least the RX-7 has a joint box, which most cars have the fuse box. There's a lot of interconnections going on in there. So you definitely want to keep a picture of that. You always want to have the factory manual as well in case you have a mistake in here to double check off of. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helps. More to come. All right, have a good one.